one of the most well-known books, the book that asks questions that all of us face in life, questions of reward and punishment. Ish haya ve'eretz utz, Iyov shmo. V'haya ha'ish hahu tam v'yashar v'yirei Elohim v'sar merah. There was a man in the land of Uz, not Oz, but the land of Uz, or Utz, and his name was Job. And he was a blameless, straight, God-fearing, somebody who didn't didn't do anything to do with evil. That's what kind of a person he was. Sounds like quite the guy. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, a total of 10, sort of the same idea, completion. He had 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels, again 10. 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she-donkeys, again 10. And a very large household. That man was wealthier than anyone in the East. So he was wealthy, he was God-fearing, had a big family. And he had a family that kept together. They had a custom where the sons would have feasts in their own homes, and they would invite their sisters to come and eat and drink with them. So there seems to be no family tension. And when the feast days were over, maybe it was at a certain point of the year or once a month or whatever it might be, then Iyov would get up and he would offer sacrifice, saying maybe they sort of cursed God, maybe they said some of the wrong words. And this is what Iyov used to do. Verse 6, on a certain day. Don't get too used to the narrative. It's not going to continue in this book. So all of the, we'll call them angels, came and presented themselves before God, and the Satan came as well. The Satan is not the Satan, the way it's in popular culture today. If you close the doors and the windows, kind of freezing. Okay, the Satan is the prosecutor. Satan is the person who brings cases against people to God. God asked the Satan, "Where have you been?" And he answered, "I've been roaming all over the earth, right? I'm looking around for people who are bad." And now God says to him, God said to say, "Now, did you see my servant Iyov? There's nobody like him. He's blameless. He fears God. He shuns evil. He's perfect. He's the perfect specimen, the perfect human being." Which is what is God saying to the Satan? You've been defeated. What is God trying to do? God said the Satan said to God, "Does Iyov not have a good reason to fear God?" Of course Iyov fears God. Of course his life is perfect. He has a perfect family. He has perfect wealth. He has everything everything everybody would want. He does. So why wouldn't he worship God? Of course, if life is perfect, it's easy to be such a good person. Hello, Ata, we're in verse 10. Sachta va'adov yad beitov yad kol asher lo misavim masei adav berachto umikneo paratz baretz. You know, you've done everything for him. Right? You fenced him as you've guarded him. All his possessions, all of his land, all of his children. V'ulam shlachna yadcha v'ga b'chol eretz asher lo im lo al panecha yivarechecha. But what's going to happen, God, if all of a sudden you punish him? If all of a sudden his life of beauty, of joy, of happiness, of perfection doesn't continue, is he going to come and is he going to, Yivarchecha here is a euphemism. It's the second time we have that. Earlier he already said that maybe my children accidentally barach God bilibo. It's a euphemism. The word is blessing, but it means cursed. If you take all this away from him, you don't think he's going to blaspheme you? You don't think he's going to curse you? And so God says in verse 12, "Vayomer Adonai la Satani nei chol asher lo biyadecha Rak elav al tishlach yadecha vayetze hasatan me'im pnei Adonai. So God said, go do what you want. The only thing is, you can't actually injure him. You can't lay a hand on him. But everything else, go. Vayiyayom. So it's a different day. The next day, 2 days later, uvanav uvnotav ochlim v'shotinayin bebeit ha'cheim habachor. And his sons and daughters are eating in the house of their elder brother, like they would have these feasts. Umalach ba'el Iyov vayomar habakar hayu chorshot va'atonot ra'ot al yedehem. A messenger comes to Iyov and says, the oxen were plowing and the she-donkeys were grazing alongside them. Vatipol shvav vatikachem. V'etanarim hiku lefi charev. When all of a sudden the Shva was a Sabian, some sort of army came and attacked them, stole all of your donkeys, they stole all of your oxen, and they took them off. They killed the young men, and I alone escaped to tell you. Od zemidaber, while this messenger was speaking, v'zeba, and another one came. Vayomar, eish Elohim nafla min hashamayim v'tivaer batzon uvnarim v'tochlem. He says, all of a sudden a fire came down from heaven. It took the hold of the sheep and the boys and burned them up. I alone escaped to tell you. While the second one was speaking, number 3 came, he said, the Chaldeans, right, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, they had a formation of 3 columns. They made a raid and they stole your camels and they killed all of your young men who watched your camels, and I alone escaped them. In verse 18, Pasuk Yudchet, Ad Zemidaber, V'zeba, right? Here we have the word ad instead of od. Maybe, probably should all be the same. While this one was still speaking, the next one came by Omar and he said, your children were sitting and eating and drinking in the house of the oldest brother. And what happened? Suddenly a wind came and the entire house collapsed. And all of the people in the house, all of your 10 children were killed. And I alone have escaped. Vayakam Iyov. So Iyov gets up. Vayikrat mi'ilo. He rips his garment. Vayagaz et rosho. And he cuts his hair, a sign of mourning. Vayipol arza. Vayishtachu. He bows down on the ground. Vayomer. And he says, verse 21, Arom yatzati mi beten imi, ve'arom ashuv shama. Adonai natan, v'Adonai lakach, yihi shem Adonai mivorach. What does he say? I entered this earth naked, I'll leave this earth naked. Right? God gave, and God took back. The name of God should be blessed. We know these words, Hashem natan v'Hashem lakach, yihi shem Hashem mivorach, said at a funeral. So Iyov here understands God had blessed him. Now, unfortunately, God cursed him. But that's just the way of the world. I entered this world naked, I'll end this world naked. He accepts what God does and still sees God as a positive life force. And the first chapter ends, B'chol zot, in verse 22, Lo chata Iyov, v'lo natan tefillah le'Elohim. All these things happen, but Iyov didn't sin in any way. He didn't cast aspersions at God. He didn't curse God. He didn't tell God that he did something wrong. And so the opening chapter of this book, in these first couple of chapters, will have narratives, and then we'll have many, many chapters of poetry and speeches, and is the background story. This background story of Iyov. Who is Iyov? Gemara goes into, is Iyov Moshe, is Iyov Avraham, is Iyov, gives a number of different opinions, asks if Iyov is Jewish or not. And ultimately the answer is that Iyov is the every man and every woman. Iyov is every person who in life seems to have something has happened that is a disaster, something they don't deserve, something horrific, something where they're a good person and some sort of terrible and bad thing happens. Iyov, while not as dramatic as in this story, not a story where somebody is absolutely perfect and their life represents perfection in every way, all the whole numbers and all the, but everybody in life has things that are difficult, that are incomprehensible. I've been good and I don't deserve this. And this book opens up with the extreme case, with this person is perfect. And so when the Gemara tries to identify, we try to identify who is Iyov, who wrote this book, when is it written, and lots have been said about it, lots have been written about it, based upon some of the language. It's seemingly during the Second Temple period that it's written, based upon influence of other languages and words in the book. There are similar tales, not surprisingly, in other ancient Near Eastern civilizations close by. It doesn't matter if Iyov is Jewish or not. This book is not a Jewish book. This book is not about putting on tefillin. This book is not about tzitzit. This book is not about keeping kosher. This is a book that every person faces in their lives. Every person who believes in a deity, every person who wants to understand the world and understand why things at times seem unjust. The extreme example is this man, is Iyov, the person who has everything, the person who is described by God as being perfect, and yet he has, all of a sudden, for no reason whatsoever, he didn't do anything wrong, for no reason whatsoever, he faces all of this horror, all of these terrible things. We'll continue and see whether the Satan is happy, whether God has said, Satan, you passed your test, Iyov's too good for you, when we continue in tomorrow's chapter, the second chapter of the book of Iyov.